please hit that subscribe button. Hey everybody, better suited to win the Stanley Cup this season. If you are new to the channel, Washington Capitals, the Boston Bruins.
Locked on and he scored! And we're live. Hey everybody, it's time for another episode of Hit or Miss, where I look at NHL teams' first round draft picks from 2005 through 2015 and determine if each pick is a hit or a miss. Last episode we talked about the New York Rangers, so today it just makes sense we're going to talk about the New York Islanders. Before we get started, I just have to ask that you please hit that subscribe button if you're new, and give this video a thumbs up if you haven't already, as both of those things greatly help out the channel. But let's get into it here. New York Islanders first round draft pick starting in 2005, where they selected 15th overall and took center Ryan OMeara. Now this was a miss, as Ryan OMeara only went on to play 33 games in the NHL, scoring 1 goal, 6 assists for 7 points and a -3 rating. Obviously did not play very much at the top level, was never a regular in an NHL lineup, and obviously a miss with that pick. 2006, they selected 7th overall, and with that pick they took right wing Kyle Okposo. This one, Okposo, yes, he's gone downhill very, very badly the last few years. But this one is still a hit because people forget how good Kyle Okposo was for the New York Islanders. This is a guy who, there was a reason Buffalo signed him to the massive contract that they did. And now he's completely been a disaster in Buffalo, as that what happens a lot when players go to Buffalo these days. But Kyle Okposo was a star player for the New York Islanders before he left, and he was very, very good. And people forget that. People, look at his last 3-4 years and how bad he's been and what a disaster his time in Buffalo has been, and forget about how good he was when he was with the Islanders. But Okposo is a hit, in my opinion. 800 games played, 196 goals, 310 assists for 506 career points and a -113 rating. Obviously, he played on some very, very bad teams throughout his career, but he's got over 500 career points. Kyle Okposo was a high-level player, a top 6 winger in the NHL for a number of seasons before going to Buffalo. So I'm saying Okposo is a hit. Obviously, things have gone very, very downhill recently, but if you go back to the early 2010s, Okposo was a big-time player. 2007, they did not have a first-round draft pick, so we move on to 2008, where they selected 9th overall and took forward Josh Bailey. This one is absolutely a hit, as Josh Bailey is still on the New York Islanders to this day. He's played 865 games in the NHL, scoring 154 goals, 322 assists for 476 career points and a -56 rating. He is a huge piece of this team still. He's been on the Islanders for his entire career. He's a massive leadership piece on the current Islanders team, and he's a very, very solid second-line player. Josh Bailey is absolutely a hit with that pick, as he has been a great Islander for the past, almost 12 years now. 2009, they had 2 picks in 2009 in the first round. The first one coming first overall, where we all know they took center John Tavares. And this one, do I really need to say it, is obviously a hit, as John Tavares has played 814 NHL games, scoring 345 career goals, 424 career assists for 769 career points and a -30 rating. Much to the chagrin of New York Islanders fans, he is now with the Toronto Maple Leafs and no longer on Long Island. However, he has become a superstar in this league. He was a superstar with the Islanders. He's a superstar with the Maple Leafs. He's captained both teams. John Tavares, a massive, massive hit there. Then they picked again at 12th overall, and with that pick, they took defenseman Calvin Haan. And this is another one similar to Okposo, where it's kind of hard because we haven't heard a lot about Calvin Haan the past year and a half or so, because injuries have really, really impacted his career, and he has not been playing nearly as much. and he's missed a lot of time, and his level of play hasn't been as good. But I am still going to call this one a hit, because similar to Okposo, Calvin DeHaan was a solid defenseman for the New York Islanders. Then he went to Carolina. He's now with Chicago. He's gone to some other teams. But back when he was in New York, he was a pretty solid defenseman for them. So, yes, things have gone downhill recently for DeHaan, but his early years and his ability and the way that he played earlier in his career, I think still makes him a hit. He's played 407 games, scoring 14 goals, 87 assists for 101 points, and a plus 37 rating. He's a defenseman. He's never been a big point-producing defenseman, but he was a very solid defenseman for the Islanders for a number of years before moving on, and then obviously injuries have taken their toll here recently. 2010, they had 2 first-round picks again, starting 5th overall, where they took right wing Nino Niederreiter. And Nino Niederreiter is now a pretty solid player with the Carolina Hurricanes. However, he is definitely a miss, as he has not lived up to being a top 5 draft pick. And as you guys who have been following this series know, I am particularly hard on top 10 picks. And top 5 picks even more so. And Nino Niederreiter, while he's a good player and a solid scorer for now with the Hurricanes, he's gone to a few different teams now. He has certainly never, ever lived up to being a top 5 draft pick. 601 games played, 137 goals, 153 assists for 290 career points and a plus 17 rating. The Islanders gave up on him very, very quickly. After one bad year, they were done with Niederreiter. He went to Minnesota. Had some good years in Minnesota, had some very down years in Minnesota. Now he's with Carolina. He's been pretty good since going to Carolina. Solid middle-of-your-lineup type goal scorer, secondary scorer, but not a superstar player or anything like that, obviously, by only 290 career points in over 600 games played. He's no superstar or anything. So I'm going to say miss with Nino Niederreiter. They picked again 30th overall, and with that pick, they took forward Brock Nelson. And Brock Nelson is absolutely a hit as a late first-round draft pick. He's played 548 career games with the Islanders, 150 goals, 145 assists for 295 points and a plus 9 rating. For a late first-round draft pick, he has turned out absolutely fantastic. He's still with the Islanders. He's a top 6 forward for them and a big piece of that team going forward, having signed a long-term deal there. I've loved what I've seen from Brock Nelson since he's come into the league, and over 200, almost 300 career points in under 550 games played, and he's continuing to get better and better offensively. Very, very impressed with Brock Nelson. 2011, they selected 5th overall, and with that pick, they took center Ryan Strome. And this one to me is another tough one. We've had a lot of borderline tough calls here with the Islanders picks. I'm going to have to go miss on Ryan Strome because of 5th overall. He has not lived up, certainly, to being a 5th overall draft pick, and I don't think he's lived up to the potential that he was expected to have when he first was drafted that high. But there's no doubt he had a very, very good year this year. He had a great breakout season this year with the New York Rangers. Unfortunately, his time with the Islanders came to a pretty disappointing end. He had one really good year with New York and with the Islanders, and people really thought that he had arrived, and this was, Ryan Strome's time to become a superstar, and it was all downhill from there. He ended up getting traded to Edmonton. He was terrible, downright terrible in Edmonton. They sent him to the New York Rangers, and he's actually been pretty good with the Rangers. He's become a very solid player with the New York Rangers now. Like I said, he had a breakout season this year offensively. However, he's still not to the point where he was worth a 5th overall pick, in my opinion, so I'm going to have to go with miss on that one. 491 games played, 95 goals, 159 assists for 254 points and a plus 19. We'll see. I think if he can repeat what he's done this year a few more times throughout his career and become consistently this level of player, then maybe I would switch this to a hit. But for now, that's still a miss at 5 overall. In 2012, they selected 4th overall. And with that pick, they selected defenseman Griffin Reinhart. And This is one of the worst draft picks of all time. Griffin Reinhart, defenseman, taken 4th overall, and he played a grand total of 37 NHL games. Yes, he was absolutely horrendous. No goals, 2 assists, 2 points, and a -5. Just not even close to ever working out. Just a disaster of a pick, a massive bust. At least Ryan Strome is putting together a somewhat decent career. Maybe not becoming the superstar player he was expected to be, but he's still a solid NHLer. Griffin Reinhart was never even a solid NHLer. He was always even the NHL games he did play, he belonged in the AHL. This was just a disaster of a pick and a massive miss. Don't worry, though. 2013, they picked in the first round 15th overall, and they made up for that Griffin Reinhart miss by taking defenseman Ryan Pulock, and that is absolutely a hit, as Pulock has become a big-time piece of their defense core, still with the Islanders to this day, and turning into a very, very solid defenseman for them. He's got a rocket of a shot, pretty good defensively, can chip in offensively. He's played 234 career games, scoring 31 goals, 77 assists for 108 points and a +27. He's become a really, really solid defenseman for them. So Ryan Pulock is absolutely a hit at 15th overall. In 2014, they had 2 picks in the first round. First one coming 5th overall, where they took forward Michael Dell. And this one is a miss, as Dell is still with the Islanders. However, he's a depth forward, pretty much a 3rd or 4th liner. He's played 85 career games, scoring 7 goals, 10 assists for 17 points and a -5 rating. And he just never developed offensively the way that he was expected to. He still hasn't. I mean, he was drafted in 2014. He's still on the younger side, but unless there's some massive breakout season with Michael Dell, he's going to stay a miss. Certainly not worthy of a top 5 pick. Certainly not even a top 10 pick. It's been a rough go for Michael Dell, other than he's been a depth player at this point in the NHL. They picked again 28th overall, where they took the forward Josh HoSang. And I think we all know very public disputes between him and the team. We all know how this is going. This is also a miss. He cannot stay at the NHL level. There have been times he's refused to, play or complained about playing in the AHL. He's another player, I think, very similar to Jesse Puljujarvi with the Edmonton Oilers, who thinks he's a lot better than he actually is and hasn't earned anything yet, but wants the ice time just to be given to him. And not a player that I like at all, and he's absolutely been a miss. He's played 53 games, scoring 7 goals, 17 assists for 24 points and a -4 rating. Just never, never stuck at the NHL level, and then he's complained a lot and had a bad attitude and burned bridges, and I don't think he's ever going to turn into being worthy of a first-round pick. So they missed pretty bad with both of those picks in 2014. However, they make up for it in 2015, where they once again had 2 first-round picks and took, starting 16th overall, they took center Matt Barzal. I don't really need to explain that more than that. He's a budding superstar in the league. Never should have still been on the board at 16, but he was, luckily for the Islanders, and he has become their best offensive player. He's played 234 games in the NHL, scoring 59 goals, 148 assists for 207 career points and a -1 rating. And I think when it's all said and done, Matt Barzal is going to be a point per game or better player throughout his career. He is a budding superstar, certainly the best young player the Islanders have going for them. And I think he's going to be, the face of that franchise going forward, and absolutely a massive home run with that selection. And then they picked again at 28th overall and took left wing Anthony Beauvillier. And this is another hit, as Beauvillier has become a really, really solid scorer for them. Mostly a second line type guy, but a very, very good one. Still obviously very young, 286 games played. He's got 66 goals, 61 assists for 127 points and a -7 rating. And he's just become a really, really solid top 6 winger for them that can score goals. And as much as they missed with those 2014 picks, they 100% made up for it in 2015 by landing 2 very good offensive players there. So that one's definitely a hit as well. So With the Islanders, guys, we have a pretty good mix here of hits and misses. There are a number of players that I think are right on the line. You could call either way. I tended to go hit with those types of players. I guess with Strome I went miss, but you know, it's pretty hit or miss. The Islanders drafting has been pretty hit or miss. However, they have made some very, very good picks that have made up for the misses for sure. And that's helped them out a lot, and that's why they're a playoff contending team now. So there you have it, guys. Hit or miss New York Islanders. Like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description below. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our Patreon and merchandise store are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.